seems kind of dog shit, but I'd much rather have a character like this. He does have a lot of range, but yeah.
If you are here because you read the title and you think I'm going to provide some drama, me versus the main man, about my opinion about Fahkumram, good. You have successfully taken the bait. I'm not doing that at all. I will speak about the character, but what I'm not going to do is talk about the main man or anything like that. What I wanted to bring you in here for was so we can have a conversation. We can have a discussion about the state of the game and other things that are going on. More specifically, I wanted to go over the topic of game philosophy and game design. I know that's a little difficult in a broad topic, but I'll be going over some of the things that make Tekken Tekken and why Tekken has felt like it's lost some of its luster in that aspect. Now, something I wanted to speak upon was trash does not equal bad design. The core design of Tekken, a video game about martial arts, and why he says Fahkumram is trash. Now, we can look at the roster of the Tekken 8 characters at this moment, and I'm sure everyone will have different or similar opinions about who the strongest characters are in this game. Now, when you look at those characters, ask yourself one question. The top 5, do they have something all in common that they share? Very similar attributes? I would assume most of you, if you're interested in the design aspect of this game, and if you get hit by some of this stuff, would say yes. There are similar attributes that these characters have that make them stronger than the other cast members. We can have another opinion about tier lists and other things like that. But in my opinion, you look at some of the strongest characters in this game, they would have to be Anna, Nina, Brian, Lydia, and I would say Eddy is very strong right now as well. And I think a lot of those characteristics in this game are shared between those characters, whether that's strong pokes, very strong offense, like totally running you over offense, and having options that are risk adverse, so much so in their favor that regardless of the option that they run, it might lead to another positive circumstance for them anyway. Now, in MainMan's video, he speaks upon how Fahkumram himself seems to be slow. He seems to be not as fast and doesn't have the options that the other DLC characters or stronger characters in this game seem to share. For instance, Fahkumram's charged moves can be sidestep and are not as strong as his previous installments versions of those guard break moves. So as we're going to go over here, we're going to see some of the stuff that MainMan had said about Fahkumram being weak. So for instance here, these charge moves on block are all steppable, meaning what real threat do these unblockables pose, right? And him having these unblockables, which they aren't in this game, unless he has Garuda, which is his install. But even then, they don't gain any tracking or anything like that. And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. As you see here, Fahkumram has an option to beat stepping. Now, on block, this is actually minus. It's minus 12, I believe. You see here? This is good. This is good design. So we have something that punishes you for turtling, punishes you air quote, right? Because it's only chip damage, it doesn't guard break like it did. And in Tekken 7, this used to splat against the wall. It doesn't even have the hard splat effect anymore in this game, where they kind of hit against the wall and you're something plus 17 or something wild like that. It doesn't even have that, which is fine. He still has a lot of frames, and it also doesn't even give this. He still gets a lot of frames, and that's still powerful. And especially if they press or anything like that. This is good design. This is fine. Punishing you for staying too stagnant, turtling too much, is not necessarily a bad thing. Of course, it comes with risks. And he can do the mid-check to stop you from stepping. But it's minus. If you decide to wait a little and look for that charge move, you'll be fine and you won't get hit. Of course, if you press, you get blown up. This is fine. This is Tekken philosophy, game design, defense. This is how Tekken has always been. It's either you do something that homes and beats an option, or you do something that's quicker and beats that option, but it puts you at risk of being punished. This is good design. This is Tekken's core philosophy. Now, when we get into the stronger characters of the cast, for instance, Eddy. Eddy has a move that I think represents some of the worst aspects of Tekken 8 game design. Now, I'm sure you guys have all either been hit by this move or seen it beforehand. But this is Eddy's very long-range low that he either puts you into a 50-50 with, he has a few mid moves, he can go into stance, or the main thing he will run is the 50-50, where he does a low hell sweep-esque move, which he gets a charge of Mandinga, and he also has a mid that is a heat engager. Both of these options you can't deal with in a way most options have. You can't pop heat, you can't jab check him. I'm sure that it'll give him a full combo on counter hit or something like that. Right? You can't interrupt him. Dick jab, you do that. And he has another option, which is most of the time the mid he'll run. So if he does the mid, you can't even low jab him. Like that. Now, do you see how much damage that is, of course? So you have that first initial hit, which does like 18 or so damage. No, it does 20 damage. So this first hit does 20 damage into his 50-50 mix-up, in which he gets another 35 damage. So in total, this is a 55 damage mix-up. Mind you, if you get hit by this 4 times in this game, with 200 health, you lose the game. Not to mention, when he lands this, Eddy gets his mechanic to push offense further. If Eddy chooses to do the mid, right, he gets heat engage, at which he is +9. If he chooses to do so, this situation could loop into itself. So I've been hit by this twice, I'm at half health. So if Eddy goes into heat dash there, he gets a full combo, full wall combo and everything like that. I don't know all of the Eddy combo stuff. But I mean, for instance, let's see. Let me show you a certain scenario that could end up in your game and oftentimes happens when Eddy is just running his offense. So we'll take a look here at something that's possible to happen in a match. So for instance, if Eddy runs his whole offense and you guess wrong twice, you guess wrong twice, I don't know the full combo for Eddy, but just something like this, right? You get put into such a detrimental situation off of what it feels like one mix-up. And the philosophy of this game states that when somebody is running their super oppressive offense, that they are almost determined to win the game. So if that is the philosophy of this game at its heart, at its core, when characters have moves like this, specifically Eddy's low, high crushing, pretty evasive low that goes pretty far, what can the player assume the idea to defend against this is? Of course, you can say, well, just be on the lookout for the low, scout it, if you will, and try to either block it and kill him, or, you know, just try to beat him to the punch. It's not necessarily that fast at 21 frames, right? Of course, he's minus. If you guess right on the mix, he's minus, right? Now, minus 13, which is good. That's fine for the mid. Now, for the low, it's also launch punishable. But the issue is, in this game, it's so scary to be launched. You are terrified to be launched because Fahkumram, for instance, something simple. If you are in neutral, I sidestep something, right? And I launch you and I get my full combo, right? So here we are. So full combo, right? Now I put you into a mix-up on stand and you are at the wall. And it seems very scary. I mean, look at that sequence. That was about 15 seconds of sequence that killed him, right? He has about 40 health left. So a few mix-ups and something like that would end the game. So you're so scared to be launched in this game, which usually comes from the form of powerful mids or something else of the sort, or very slow, dangerous L sweep, right? Like Devil Jin, for instance. Devil Jin has a lot of moves in which Devil Jin's design philosophy comes from the fact that he's crazy, right? He's a psycho, he's a murderer, devil guy, right? That makes sense design-wise, that Devil Jin would have a lot of moves that replicate that design and feel that way from a player perspective. If you think of Kudan's, right? Probably the most well-known Devil Jin, and when he played him, he would pull out these crazy moves exactly at the perfect time, the correct panic move at the right time. That was the way he played. But now options are becoming so homogenized in this game that everyone kind of feels like they can do something crazy, and while that will net them a lot, but some are much more risk adverse than others. For instance, Eddy's low, that low I was showing you, where he goes very far and he puts you into that 50-50 mix, is only -14, which most of the cast cannot launch punish. It's very odd, some of these design philosophies, and it's very mixed. Why would you ever play Devil Jin and do a hell sweep with Devil Jin if this is all he gets? If he puts you into a mix after a hell sweep, right? You stay on the ground, you get hit, he puts you into another vortex. Now, mind you, he's risking his life every single time he does that with an actual -23 hell sweep. That is very launch punishable, right? So the question is, well, why would you ever play Devil Jin when you can just play Eddy? That's a great question. When I have coached my friends recently, who I'm trying to teach and keep a tight-knit community of people who want to grow and learn Tekken, they have asked me before, they have said, verbatim, they have said, why would I do this with my character when other characters do it better? And they have a great point. When you look at the cast of Tekken 8, and you think of what characters can do in this game in particular, a lot of the characters lose identity. They lose the feeling that they gave most players a long time ago. They just don't have it anymore. Game philosophy-wise, take Jin for example. Jin had an evolution from where Tekken 3, he was a Mishima. In Tekken 4, he renounced being a Mishima. He was not anymore. He was a Kazama. And that was a step in the right direction for character design, character arc, storytelling, everything good. It was great. Tekken 5, he had something similar. Tekken 6, he was the same. He was still Jin. It wasn't Devil Jin. Tekken 5, 6, 7, very separate characters, very different styles. Now in Tekken 8, this story, it's kind of about being one with his devil. In part, that makes sense. Game design-wise, not at all. For instance, we have Jin and we have Devil Jin. A lot of people initially, when the game was coming out, were speculating that Devil Jin wouldn't even be in the game because Jin has so many moves that carry over from Devil Jin. Jin was always a well-rounded martial arts Kazama-based fighter. But now, if you look at his moves, he has so many moves that just dictate a different character, a completely different style of play. And I understand from a perspective where it's him supposedly becoming one with his devil, but it's messy, it's blurry, and it's not something that I feel like most Jin players would want from playing Jin. For instance, he has Devil Jin's dive kick. He has a bunch of things like that. This is his move. That was Jin's move. He was able to do this for a while now. Definitely in Tekken 7. But now he has a better dive kick that has better... It doesn't have better frames on block, but it pseudo tracks and also is mid. So the question becomes, why ever would you do the old Jin move? Why wouldn't you just do this evading, dive kicking Devil Jin move practically? And you can see this philosophy in the entirety of the game. With almost every character, you would go, why would I do this in this game when I could just play somebody else who does it better? Why would you play Devil Jin and do a hell sweep when you can play Eddy and do a hell sweep that loops his offense and is much better and much less punishable? That is the homogeny of Tekken 8. Homogeny being blending together so many of the tools, so many of the styles, so many of the ideas that characters once had in their own core concepts that have been just given to other people and made much better on others. That's why you see 3 Eddys in top 8. That's why you had people playing Yoshimitsu who had never played Yoshimitsu. That's why we had like 4 Dragonovs at one point. Now, coming back around to the initial topic of the video, Fahkumram. In my opinion, right now, Fahkumram is perfect. Perfect. Very strong words for him being out for 2 days, right? A day and a half at the time of my recording. Clear weaknesses does not mean bad design. This, being steppable, is very good design. Now, if we have to talk about the actual martial arts, the core principles of Tekken in itself, a fighting game that is based around different versions of martial arts. This is Muay Thai kickboxing. If you think of a fighter who leads with their left leg, whose power leg is their behind leg on the right side, being steppable to the left is perfect design. You see this stance that Fahkumram has? How he stands with his left leg forward. This means he is a righty, and he uses his right leg to kick with his most powerful strikes. So, if you understand that from a martial arts perspective, having this move being steppable in the direction opposite from that power leg is excellent design, as opposed from his Tekken 7 variation in which it tracked both ways. And you can have your argument for realism and everything like that, but Tekken 8 at its core is a game about martial arts. So when you have martial arts principles blend into the game itself, it feels good. And of course, this blends back to what MainMan was saying about the character. When you have a tricky mix-up that leads into plus frames and something heavily in your advantage, well, if you play the situation calm and you just maneuver around this very large fighter, you can step and move around some of these options. Of course, he has options to beat that, which is good. As a fight goes, you would want counterplay. You don't want him to have every single option be beat by being stepped to the right. You want some form of counterplay. Now, of course, one of his strengths being he's so tall, he's such a big character. He has a very, very long reach, which is also good. That makes sense. That's on par. Now, of course, this being the case, this means a lot of the stuff that he does at such ranges will have massive whiff recovery. Perfect. Like, look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like, look how long his foot stays out there. You have almost 14 frames. That's, of course, quick in real time, but that's a good amount of time to recognize and think, all right, if Fahkumram does this very long-reaching move against me and I space it well, I can launch him and punish him. This is excellent design philosophy, in my opinion. More characters need weaknesses. They don't necessarily have to be as blatant and as obvious, but more characters need weaknesses rather than strengths. Because if everyone is strong, No one is. But when we have designs like this that have thought and care put into them, this is good design. Now, when you think of an actual martial arts fight, you would think, okay, this person knows my weakness. How do we start playing chess? How do I beat the fact that they know what I'm weak to? How do I counteract that with my own strengths and use it against them? That is Tekken at its finest. That's the Tekken that I miss, and that's the Tekken that I hope evolves and develops down this path with Fahkumram. In this way, we can bring back Tekken, which is interesting because Fahkumram in Tekken 7 was what most people say the downhill of classic Tekken is. I think with this, we have the opposite. We have a chance to show that characters can have weaknesses, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, I would like to reiterate that when MainMan said that this character is trash, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Low tier does not mean poor design. If we can move the rest of the Tekken 8 cast in the direction of having clear weaknesses and not being so homogenized that everybody has the same strengths, can run the same exact offense, and kill you the exact same way, I think we can work our way back to having a healthy, less toxic Tekken environment. Something else I want to state before leaving. Form your own opinions on these subject matters. I made a video recently on Twitter that was a joke. I joked about how Fahkumram has a new move and it goes pretty far, I said, which makes sense. If a big guy, if a 7-foot dude's jumping and he throws a knee, you better be sure he's going far. He's 7 foot tall. It just makes sense. Of course, he's minus 14 after, which is something people are failing to realize. I mean, he's new, day one, come on. But a lot of people in this video I posted as a joke are taking what I said to truth. And some people get it. Check me out. We have this video here. What do you see wrong there? It's clearly an edit as a joke that I made about the range of this move being long. But basically, I backdash all the way full screen, I do his up forward 3, and then I just hit the replay button, and I just have it play from where it hit him earlier. Also, you can see that I gain heat with no heat. Come on, guys. And you'll see people in these comments saying, I don't know if it's a real or edited. This is the business model for all games. They put it behind a paywall. Like, guys, do some research. Form your own opinions. Stop taking everything you see on the internet as fact. And of course, this is a commentary I made. Tekken 8 report, Tekken 8 Fahkumram. I did this as bait. This is a joke. And you can see that a lot of these people on the internet will form an opinion without even looking into it themselves. They'll form an opinion and they'll have such strong opinions. I've seen some negative comments on this post already. Please do your research. Please form your own opinion. Take the time to check things out and not take them as fact. Be patient and go about things like this calm and stop trying to out the development team and blame someone or do something else. Just take a moment to form your own opinion and learn something on your own. Clearly this isn't real, and you'll see other people taking it as fact and saying up forward 3 on Fahkumram needs to be nerfed. It's minus 14 and the character's been out for a day. I guess that is that person's own opinion though, so. Anyway, just try to enjoy this game. I'm really excited for Fahkumram. I don't think he's overly busted. I'm very happy with the way he is, and I'm excited to play him. Enjoy the game, have fun, play with your friends, go to locals. If you're here in Dallas, come out to Suplex. I'll see you there, and I'll whoop you with some Fahkumram. Have some fun, get off of the internet, and I hope the way they made Fahkumram, they start to develop the game in that direction further. Thank you for your time. I'll see y'all later.